Hey, welcome to the Viking Update Show. He's John Krawczynski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. This is TalkNorth.com. John also does the John Krawczynski Show. We have all kinds of Vikings stuff up at TalkNorth.com. And this is kind of the view of two veteran writers who've been around the team for decades. John grew up a Viking fan. I came here to cover the Vikings in 1990. This show is presented to you by Onyx Hunt, and we are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio.
Hey, this is Randy Shaver. Along with Kevin Gorg, we host the show Fantasy Huddle on Talk North. Each week, we're going to break down the matchups for the NFL season and try to give you the best chance to win your fantasy football games each and every week. Join us for Fantasy Huddle on Talk North.
If you like the show, please subscribe. We're, as you can tell, if you're watching, we're also doing the show on YouTube. Let's get right to it. It's hard to start anywhere other than J.J. McCarthy, his inaccuracy, and also his very strange penchant for playing well in clutch situations, no matter how well he's played previously. I don't know that I said it in my column the other day. Good quarterbacks don't miss people who are wide open by 10 feet. Bad quarterbacks don't suddenly become perfect down the stretch. I've never seen anybody quite like J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, we were in the press box on Sunday and, long after the game was over, and Matthew Collar, who does a great job covering the Vikings as well, he's a little bit newer to the beat than you and I as grizzled veterans. And so he was asking, he's like, hey, John, is this what covering Christian Ponder was like? And I don't know. And I told him, no, it wasn't, because with Christian Ponder, you knew for a fact, like, he just didn't have it. Like, there was everything about playing the position was, just escaped him. And so the only time that he had even a little bit of success is when he was just taking off and running with his head cut off, basically. And so, they made the playoffs the one year, but it was all Adrian Peterson for the reason that he was there. And so that, in real time as was unfolding, you're like, man, they're just going to have to find someone else. This is not going to work out. But the thing about JJ is that there are these glimpses of really effective, really game-changing quarterback play that we have seen in there in between just these moments of sheer ineptitude. And so, trying to figure things out right now has been difficult for me, because it is like they're just enough that he's shown us that's like, okay, like I see something that could eventually happen here. But it certainly isn't happening quick enough for what this team would like. But I just can't quit him just yet, because of, those moments that he has shown up are typically the most important moments that you want a quarterback, and he's there in those times. And so I really don't. I'm still trying to figure it out, Jim. Honestly, I don't know what to make of it just yet.
And so we covered a lot of baseball. He reminds me of a young hitter who, if you put him up against kind of a wily veteran pitcher, and that pitcher gets him to think, he's done. But you throw him a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, he turns on and hits it 8 miles. There's no time to think. You're just reacting. And it seems like clutch situations, hurry-up situations. I mean, one thing about his final 2 minutes, where he was 5 for 5, 55 yards and a touchdown after being horrific up to that point, was you saw rhythm in the offense. You saw fast-paced offense. You saw him taking quick drops, not facing a pass rush, and feeling urgency. So first time he saw somebody open, he just cut it loose. And I feel like, we talk to Kevin O'Connell. We hear him talk 4 times a week, right? And what do you hear when you hear Kevin O'Connell talk? It's, okay, let's take a left here. Now let's take a right here. Oh, stop sign, railroad crossing. It's like, And
you're on a journey.
You wonder if the way Kevin O'Connell teaches his offense is just too much for McCarthy, and McCarthy only functions well when he has to say, okay, screw it. I got to make a play here. I'm just going to throw the open guy as quickly as I can.
It's so funny that you brought up the baseball analogy, because I swear to you, as I was watching that last drive from McCarthy, I was saying to Alec Lewis right next to me, I was like, I just kept saying, don't think meat, just throw. Yep. Don't think meat, just throw. Like it was Bull Durham. Like, stop, trying to dissect this thing. Stop trying to play the chess game and just get out there and play instinctual football. And that does seem to be when he's at his best. I'll also say, I don't think that's necessarily uncommon for a young quarterback, because there is a lot of verbiage, a lot of things to process. And I think especially in this Kevin O'Connell offense, I don't think you would describe it as simple. I don't think you would describe it as, kind of spoon feeding a quarterback. Cause let's take this just a step further, Jim. We have seen Kevin O'Connell have to deal with thrusting quarterbacks into situations at the drop of a hat a lot during this, his regime here. Josh Dobbs, Carson Wentz, and it almost always seems like their best football is when they're jumping right in at the start and they're just playing football. And as it goes on, and as they have to start to really try to get in within the structure of the offense, that's when it becomes more difficult for them. Now, in the case of Wentz and Dobbs, these guys are journeymen. They bounced around. And so, maybe they just have limitations in their abilities, but it is notable to me that that's kind of the pattern that we saw. And now with JJ, the pattern that we are seeing is when they are within the regular game plan, that is when there's a lot more struggle. And when it is, hey, just get in there, call a quick play and play off of feel, that's when we see a little bit more, sharpness, a little bit more of like a promise within his performance. And so I don't think the sample size is too small to make any grand conclusion on it, but I do think that there is something to him just playing instinctually right now and figuring things out that way that is more comfortable for him than when he is within the structure of the offense and trying to outthink defenses and putting, so much more pressure on his shoulders.
What's also fascinating is the way because it is a small sample size and because he's on a team that's supposed to be winning, and this is not supposed to be just a developmental year, and this is not supposed to be just, hey, everything's fine, play lousy for a while as long as you're good by next year. How quickly our opinions are altered or at least muddled, because up until a 2-minute warning, you could have argued that, God, okay, I don't know what to do with this guy. He can't function. Then he has the 2-minute warning. From then on, he's perfect. And then you're like, okay, what? Now I'm really confused. And then they end up losing the game, which casts you back to looking at the first 3 quarters, which is where the game was actually lost. It's fascinating how every play seems to alter our perception just a little bit. The other thing I found fascinating is, going through, listening to the best NFL analysts, former quarterbacks talk about him. There are really good analysts who will tell you that he's locking his front leg, that his mechanics look off, that his footwork's off. O'Connell talks about posture and eyes and feet and all these things. And then you'll have like somebody, Dan Orlovsky, say, well, I went back through all his Michigan tape and I went and watched every game he's played in the pros, and there's nothing wrong with the mechanics.
Yeah. I'm going to lean more away, toward the consensus, I think, on that part right now, just because the head coach is saying and indicating that there are some mechanics issues. I think he has plenty of arm. I don't think it's an arm strength issue, but there does seem to be something that is happening that is, and I'm not Archie Manning. I'm not a quarterback expert that way in terms of the finite details of it, but there does seem to be something that is happening that is causing the inaccuracy to the degree that it is. And it's not arm strength. We've seen him make plenty of throws. Maybe it's too much arm strength sometimes, but, he, like you said at the start of the show, he's missing guys by 8 feet sometimes. And so that tells me that he is either speeding himself up. He is, his feet are not set in the right way. They're, as O'Connell said, posture. So maybe like he's not standing tall enough in the pocket. There's all sorts of things that must be going on to contribute to that. And then when he is in the 2-minute comeback scramble mode, I do think that, to his credit, his mind gets clearer when others maybe actually are more frenetic, are more frantic, and can't deal with that sort of scenario as well. For whatever reason, JJ McCarthy locks in there. And that is when you see his best throws, and that is when he looks the most comfortable. And so I do think maybe that is a case of, if they can continue to give him the reps and iron out those mechanical issues, maybe the consistency does come around and maybe the accuracy does improve. And so there are those possibilities. But I think when I walked out of the building on Sunday night, Jim, I was just like, the grand conclusion that I have reached, and maybe I am too soon on it, is that I just think that they have to abandon the idea that they are going to contend this year, that they are going to win games, and just say, everything going forward, the rest of this season is geared toward JJ McCarthy and playing through his mistakes and letting him learn, and then giving us some sort of evaluation going into the offseason where he is. It doesn't mean you have to stamp him or dump him by then, but he needs to be getting as many reps as possible in ways that will help him develop and grow and iron out all the wrinkles that we're seeing. I don't know if Justin Jefferson wants to deal with that. I don't know if Harrison Smith wants to deal with that, but it's your quarterback. This is where you are now. And so I just think that's got to be the mindset going forward, is we're all in on JJ, figuring this thing out and giving him as many scenarios and opportunities as possible to show that he can get better as the season goes on and set himself up for next season.
This conversation reminds me of 2 tales from the grand history of the San Francisco 49ers. One is Bill Walsh saw Joe Montana was a pretty good college quarterback in Notre Dame. He wasn't incredible. He wasn't the kind of guy who was going to look good at combine. He wasn't very big. He wasn't strong. His teammates were always telling him he should go to the weight room, and he never listened to them. But Bill Walsh watched Joe Montana lead some comebacks, and he said, okay, I see the good, and as a good offensive coach, I can get more good out of him, and I can get rid of the bad. And I think that's O'Connell's job now, not to make J.J. McCarthy the guy who's going to run his offense the way he wants it run, but you got to find the plays that work for him, the thoughts that work for him, the sets that work for him, and you got to dig down on that and stop trying to have J.J. McCarthy do what Sam Darnold did for most of last year. The other thing is Mike Holmgren, when he goes is a rising offensive coach. When he goes to San Francisco, I think it was near the end of Joe Montana's run, and Montana was coming off for him a bad year, and the 49ers were coming off a rare year where they didn't go to the Super Bowl. And Holmgren went through every play of Montana's career, and the first time he met with him, he said, "We're getting rid of these 8 plays." Now, Joe Montana, Hall of Fame quarterback, maybe you can make it argue. You can argue he's the greatest of all time, especially the way he played in the postseason. And Holmgren said, these 8 plays never work. You throw 40% of your interceptions on these. We're just getting rid of them. We're never going to run them again. I think O'Connell needs to get in that mode and say, find what works, find what makes him comfortable, give him a baseline of success, and then you can build out from there. Don't just have him try to run the whole playbook.
Yeah, that sounds really smart to me, and just simplifying things for him, I think, is important right now to get him some confidence, because I do think that there were times in that game where he was, ultra frustrated and losing confidence in himself. We saw kind of him put his hands on his head and like really frustrated when he was missing some of those throws. And so the other aspect about this approach, Jim, is that when we started the season, we said that the reason for optimism for this team is that We don't necessarily know what JJ McCarthy is going to be and do, but we do think that all of the things around him are good enough to great that it will help him help mitigate the weaknesses that McCarthy has, or help him learn on the job a little bit quicker and just make his job easier. What we have seen in the last few weeks now is that they have failed him in some ways as well. I mean, against Baltimore, it's all the pre-snap penalties, and maybe some of that was McCarthy's fault.
And only running the ball 13 times,
and only running McCarthy the ball 13 times,
run 47 pass plays.
Exactly. So that's one. Now against the Bears, there were times where JJ made good throws and put it right on them, and they dropped them. Addison twice, Thielen, Hawkinson. Like, when you have a quarterback who is struggling to the degree that he is, you have to be perfect in the times where he is good. And the throw to Addison in the first quarter was a touchdown if he catches that ball. That was right in his hands, and they win the game if he makes that play. If Thielen makes the catch on third down, like they extend the drive, and who knows what happens. That you have to pick your quarterback up. Oh, by the way, defense, get a freaking turnover one time. Like, just get one. We saw like the Miles Price kick return, and then 2 plays and they're in the end zone. That is what you need to do for a young quarterback. And they are not doing enough of that. And so this notion that they had the defense and then they had all the playmakers to make all these plays and really make things easy for McCarthy has not materialized enough this season. And so even if there is pushback internally about priorities shifting here, Kevin O'Connell could say, hey, look, guys, like, I gave you the chances. And, of course, JJ's been bad. And there's a lot that he needs to be better at, but we need to be better around him so we could win some of these games and then still be alive in this playoff hunt. And they just haven't done that. So that's my other reasoning for shifting the parameters of your goals for this season, is because time and again, there's been too many mistakes from other areas, not including McCarthy, when the burden is to be perfect. And maybe it's an unfair burden, but these guys are all really veteran players that are just not doing enough.
2 big topics to get to today. We got to talk about Max Brosmer, and we do need to talk about the defense and the veterans who aren't performing. First, I want to tell you about Onyx Hunt. Have you ever driven past a piece of land and wondered who owns that? Or maybe you need to know exactly where a property line runs. That's where Onyx Hunt comes in, and it's not just for hunters. There are folks using Onyx for their jobs every day throughout the country, from farmers and ranchers mapping out their fields, wildland firefighters navigating rough terrain, construction workers needing to know who owns what property. This app offers something for everyone. If you need the best land ownership maps, aerial imagery, and property boundaries in your pocket, Onyx Hunt is the tool for the job. Try it free for 7 days. Download Onyx Hunt in the app or Google Play Store, or visit onyxmaps.com/hunt to get started. Also want to tell you about Twill in the Edina Galleria. My friend Scott Dayton. It is called Twill by Scott Dayton in the Edina Galleria. This is one of my Peter Millar pullovers. This time of the year, I wear all the summer and golf stuff during the summer. This time of the year, it's perfect time to go buy stuff at Twill, because the great thing is you can find really comfortable stuff that looks really nice. You can find stuff that's perfect for laying on the couch watching football. You can find stuff that'll keep you warm and looking good when you're at the rink. And, the longer I've shopped at Twill, the more it dominates my closets. I'm probably up to about 90% Twill stuff now. And it also wears really well, so you're not going to be buying new clothes all the time. I really don't like clothes shopping. I like Twill because I like the people and it's such an easy experience. But you shop at Twill, you're not going to have to shop much because you're going to buy something that's going to last you the rest of your life. Twill in the Edina Galleria, twill.com. Go to twill.com, twillmn.com. Sign up for email notifications. They won't spam you to death. They'll just let you know when they have a special event. And remember, drop by the Edina Galleria. Great place to walk around this time of the year. All right, let's deal with the Brosmer thing because we're in Minnesota. Backup quarterbacks are always popular. Now you have a backup quarterback who played at the University of Minnesota, who's a nice kid, who has looked good whenever we've seen him in public. I'm just going to say this. I think he's a good player. And he's also a big, strong guy. One of the odd things about this season, seeing those guys in the locker room without their shirt on, McCarthy still looks to me like a 16-year-old kid. Brosmer looks like a mature athlete. He is a big, strong dude. Here's where I'm going to start this conversation. If an undrafted free agent who played 1 year of major college ball and is a rookie and has never taken a snap in an NFL, never taken a meaningful snap in an NFL game, turns out to be a really good NFL quarterback, that would be like the second time that has happened in the last 40 years.
Right.
Kurt Warner's the only other example. Is it possible? It's possible because in sports, almost anything is possible. Please don't tell me it's likely.
Right. Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, everyone gets enamored with the backup quarterback, of course. And like, you want to hope and you want to dream. And maybe this is the case. Maybe they are sitting on a gold mine, there that will eventually reveal itself. But even for the folks who say, well, hey, Tom Brady was taken in the 6th round. Tom Brady was at Michigan. Like, Tom Brady was a highly touted recruit, started a ton of games, beat out Drew Henson, all of those things, and was really, really accomplished. Brock Purdy played a lot of football at Iowa State and wasn't, was he like at Alabama? No, but like high level football. Yeah. And really, really good football. And so like all of these cases of lower or undrafted QBs coming in and then eventually having some success. You're right. Like they took all of them took decidedly different routes than Max Brosmer. And you and I watched Max Brosmer, with the Gophers. He was good. Not someone that you'd say, oh yeah, that's definitely an NFL quarterback. So if it were to work out, it would be literally one of the great stories, in NFL history. If he became this even, good starter for a long time. And so the likelihood of it is that it won't work out. It doesn't mean it definitely won't, but, sort of like speaking with any certainty that Brosmer is going to be just a much better option than JJ McCarthy is foolish right now. There is a tiny sample of throws that you saw in the preseason that looked good. But this is different. So I understand why Kevin O'Connell has not gone to Brosmer. If it gets terrible down the stretch with McCarthy, is it worth taking a look at? Sure. But like, I think that O'Connell is right to really give McCarthy every last chance to do this before they move on. And if Brosmer does it, it will be an incredibly unlikely success story for sure.
Yes, no doubt about it. All right. I think we covered that. The defense is not creating turnovers, and the defense has to. And what's fascinating about the Bears, 7-3, leading the division, Caleb Williams getting all this attention. I look at the Bears and say, why are they better? I think Caleb Williams is about the same, maybe a little bit better, maybe making a few better decisions a game. They are rushing for 50 more yards a game. They're rushing for a full yard more per carry, and they lead the NFL in turnovers, and they lead the league in turnover differential. That's what's different about the Bears. And Caleb Williams, now when he makes a spectacular play, it puts them ahead instead of helping them get to within 10 points or something like that. This defense is not creating turnovers. This defense is built to create turnovers. This defense isn't built to just stop every running play and shove you back in the line of scrimmage. This defense is built to be opportunistic and make sacks, create turnovers, maybe even get some return touchdowns. They're not coming close to doing that.
Yeah, they're even on Sunday against the Bears, like they were solid. Like they played well, and you could, like, if you wanted to, you could say, hey, we held the Bears to this many points at home, you should win that game. Probably, like there's probably a chance, but in the context of where the Vikings are and who they have on offense and what their goals are, this defense has to be more impactful. They have to be playmaking. They cannot be, this is right now a game manager defense. Like this is just like, don't get us killed out there. Just hold the line. And that was never what they were advertised to be. It was Brian Flores, creating chaos. And it was Van Ginkel and Grenard and making plays. And right now, when you look at this defense as a whole, there are precious few playmakers on the team.
Maybe three.
Yeah. I mean, Van Ginkel, right?
Cashman
and Grenard. And Cashman, I will say, who I love. I love Blake Cashman. And he is incredibly important to what they do. Has he caused a fumble?
Right. He's been all over the field. He's made a million tackles. And I thought his blitzing against the Lions won that game as much as anything. Yeah. But yeah, he's not creating turnovers.
Yep. He's not doing that. And those things. And so, and in the secondary, I mean, my gosh, like Rodgers had this historic game against the Bengals. But other than that, like, have we called Byron Murphy Jr.'s name one time? Like, Harrison Smith is not what he was. I'm sorry. Like, he's an unbelievable player and maybe a Hall of Famer and all of those things, but every time down the middle of the field on 3rd and long, a team converts. And a lot of times it's Harrison Smith right behind him, just a split second. And so Theo Jackson, like all these guys, no one scares you as a quarterback, on this defense besides Grenard and Van Ginkel. Dallas Turner has done a tiny little bit here and there, but he's just way out of position a lot of times and not doing enough. And Cashman, like you have to account for him because he's just going to be everywhere, but, it's not enough. It just isn't. And if they get like the other frustrating thing to talk about is that, yes, McCarthy threw 2 interceptions. It was 2. It wasn't 4. Right.
It wasn't Sam Darnold's 4, by the way.
It wasn't Sam Darnold. And so what happens if the Vikings get 1 turnover from the Bears? You don't even have to get 2 or 3 or 5. Get 1 and you probably win that game, and so yes, the most important thing is JJ McCarthy and what's happening and what he does down the stretch. But the defense needs to be held to account as well. They have been my kids, they're mid. Like that's what the word now. Everything's mid. How was your day? Mid. Well, how's this defense? It's mid. Like there's nothing special about it right now. And it does not make opposing quarterbacks and offenses uncomfortable really at all. And so that has to change and they have to find a way. And I just don't know if they have the personnel right now to manufacture that.
I think as your children's coordinator, it's up to you to elevate them from mid.
Yes, I'm trying. They barely talk to me these days. So like we're in the teen and preteen era. And so, I'm just holding on for dear life.
You've just become really stupid in the last couple of years. That's
no question.
And your intelligent level will eventually elevate, but it might take a while.
It might take a while. Yes. Yeah. They got to hit rock bottom sometime and that's going to be difficult, but the silver lining will be that maybe I will not be the biggest idiot in the world anymore. And so we'll get there eventually.
It's kind of, I have a little placard here that basically says that that's my goal is not be the biggest. But so I'm going to say something idiotic or that might be judged by some as idiotic here in a second. First, we do want to thank the Minnesota State Lottery.
She's Jan, the ultimate Vikings fan.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the Vikings Jan Show Fan Show. My special guest today is Jared Allen. So, Jared, who you got for the Vikings game this week?
Minnesota Vikings.
Me too. So that's our show. We'd like to thank our sponsor, the Minnesota Lottery, who reminds you this could be your year. Play the new
Vikings
Scratch Game for a shot at $100,000, game tickets, and more. Minnesota Lottery. I'm in. Must be 18 or older to play.
And here's Talk North star Michael Russo for Clamshell Beach Resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota?
Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
I wrote about it in the Tuesday Star Tribune. I always feel a little guilty when I critique drafts because it's easy to do. Drafting is hard. Critiquing drafts is easy. I acknowledge that. But there has to be some baseline for success. There has to be some sense that people know what they're doing, even if they miss once in a while. If you look at the Ravens are a great organization. They draft very well. They have misses too. Mm-hmm. But their hits are really good hits. You know, their hits are home runs. And it just struck me when I was kind of looking at this roster and what they need and what they could have had in the last 4 drafts. And what I came to is if Kwesi had drafted the way the average NFL fan sitting at home with Mel Kiper's book would have drafted, if he had done nothing creative, if he hadn't tried to think outside the box, if he'd just taken the obvious player at the obvious time, this team without any pulling any muscles or anything would have Kyle Hamilton, Bo Nix, and depending on whether they traded up in that second pick or stayed put, either Jared Verse or Quinyon Mitchell. Mm-hmm. You'd have one of the best safeties in the game, maybe the best safety in the game. He would solve a lot of problems on the back end. He would create turnovers. He also blitzes well. He'd be perfect for Flores. Then maybe you don't bring Harrison Smith back. Maybe that frees up Harrison Smith's money to spend on somebody else. Or maybe you can keep Cam Bynum. I don't know. There are a lot of different dominoes falling there. Quinyon Mitchell would be their best cornerback. If Byron Murphy's your second best cornerback, you're pretty good. If Byron Murphy's your best cornerback, you're probably lacking. And then Verse would be their best defensive lineman. And if you didn't trade up to take Verse and you stayed where you were, Mitchell's your, I think I muddled that a little bit. Mitchell's your best cornerback. And maybe down the road, McCarthy surpasses Nix. That's very possible. Right now, Nix is way better and he's winning a lot of games and he's beating the Chiefs on national TV. It's amazing how many of their problems would have been solved if they just took kind of the obvious person in the obvious place and didn't spend all that draft capital moving up to take 2 guys who haven't done anything yet.
Yeah, I think on the Nix McCarthy thing, I'm going to reserve judgment on that. And I know you are too, but like in some ways it feels like Nix is like McCarthy in that he goes through long stretches of games where he's not making any plays. And then in the fourth quarters, he just goes and and he played last year and McCarthy didn't. So maybe he's just a year ahead of McCarthy on the curve. And also Nix was in the college for like 9 years.
He was. And he played 61 college games.
Yeah. And so he is ahead of the curve. And so we'll see on that one in particular. But the rest of them, you're right. I think that Kwesi outthought himself a lot, really sort of was leaning into, we're doing things in a different way here. I'm not your average GM. I'm going to, move around and I'm going to, get cute and I'm going to do these things. And everyone's going to say, wow, that was really, really smart because look at all the hustle that I've done to make this stuff happen. And the bottom line is however you do it, whether it is moving around like Jimmy Johnson or whether it is staying pat and making the picks, like you just have to hit on more of these. Like it is not a sustainable model of team building to say, well, we'll just go and sign free agent X and free agent Y and free agent Z to fill in because we haven't hit on these draft picks. There just are precious few of them so far that have become, not just regular players, but like good players that you can build around type of moves. And so, that is coming back to haunt them right now. I mean, the Dallas Turner thing, like this defense desperately craves a guy with juice, like a guy that can come off the edge, just make stuff happen. And we've seen it once or twice here or there, but just not nearly enough. And unlike quarterback, defensive end is a position that young guys can come in and be really impactful right away.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, the defensive backs, like, Donovan Jackson seems like a decent player. But we just haven't seen enough of it. And it is definitely hurting this team that more of these picks have not emerged as higher level players, not just guys you can plug in there, but higher level guys.
And what they did in 2024, to their credit, they had an incredible scorecard when it came to veteran free agents.
Yes.
And it's not going to happen every year. And we're seeing this year that it doesn't happen every year. Jonathan Allen was a good player. He is not the player they signed. Hargrave was a good player. The problem with free agency is you're outbidding the market for someone based on what they did in the past.
Yeah. You're paying on past results, not future.
Yes.
Usually.
And you're not paying what their perceived median value is. You're having to outbid everybody else. So free agency can work, but it's almost always high risk.
Yep. It's the thing you do when you do think you're one or two players away and okay, we're going to splash the pot here and get this cornerback, this linebacker, this defensive end, this left tackle, whatever it is. And okay, that's the one missing piece. And I do think that the Vikings believed that they were only one or two pieces away. Oh, let's go get Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. And then we'll be ready to go. Let's get Allen and Hargrave. And okay, that's it. That now we are all set. Well, if you're going to splash the money like that, you have to hit on those guys as well. Just like if you're spending the draft capital to move up and grab Dallas Turner, you gotta hit, man. He's gotta be the guy. And if you are spending the money in free agency, you signed Blake Cashman in free agency. Great. Awesome. Like perfect. Exactly what you needed. But, Fries has been all right. Ryan Kelly's been injured. Allen and Hargrave, meh. Like that can't happen. Like that cannot happen. And that's it's been happening too often.
And I know somebody in the Vikings orbit, of course, I'm not going to say their name, who's told me there is some consternation in the building at all this and the fact that the bad drafts have forced them to spend a lot of money in free agency on players who probably aren't going to be around very long. And, listen, every NFL team is might be one coach and quarterback away from making a playoff run, but also might be 1 year from having to rebuild. In the NFL, you can rebuild quickly, but they don't want to do that. They did not envision rebuilding in their future. But if all these guys kind of crash and burn at the same time, they're going to be a rebuilding team.
Well, and especially too, because I think that with this rebuild, or whatever you want to call the stage that their roster is in, the hope was that you're contending, this season, that you're going to be in the playoff mix with McCarthy and stuff. But then the hope is that you use this season as sort of the springboard forward, right? That, okay, we've really built on, that we've assembled this roster around McCarthy. And now when we go into next season, there's maybe even a little more continuity. Everyone has a little more experience together. And then it's like, all right, foot on the gas, we're going. And now the way that things have transpired and the way that some of these draft picks and free agents have underwhelmed, Now, if you get to the end of the season and you've won 7 games, 8 games, whatever it is, and you have some old guys or some disappointing performers, now you're looking at, man, we still need 5 or 6 dudes. Like we're not now just one more player away. And that is where the pressure then starts to build. And it's just like trying to sketch out the vision for where this team is going forward. You have Jefferson, you have Addison. There's a few other younger playmakers, and you have O'Neal and Darrisaw, but after that, man, it gets dry pretty quickly, and that's a scary situation.
It is. And by the way, Addison, good first round draft pick, but with his off-field stuff, you do wonder, will they invest? I mean, the real test of a draft pick is, are you happy to give them their second contract?
Yes.
And they might, but I don't know if they're going to feel great about it.
Yeah, no, it's, and like from a purely player performance standpoint, last week, notwithstanding, like, yeah, good player. And at the place where he was picked, you'd say, yeah, give me that production. Yeah. Anytime. Like, that's great. There is some juice to his game. There's some electricity. He's made some big plays, and you can see a world where he gets better as, the next couple of years go and becomes a real threat. But yes, the off-field things, he's been a little bit banged up here and there, but, and then some inconsistencies with drops and things like that. It does make it less straightforward, I believe, of a negotiation, going forward. It's not like, yes, absolutely, here's all the money that we want, that you can have. We're keeping you for sure. There's going to be more complicated elements of the talks for keeping him around for the long term than you would have hoped for of a player of his stature.
Let's get to the Packer game. I want to remind you, we do have 3 Viking shows on the network. This is the only one we're doing YouTube right now. Alec Lewis does a really good job, does multiple podcasts a week. Sometimes you hear him and John talking together on this network. We have Jeff Diamond's Vikings and NFL Insider with the former Vikings general manager. That usually comes out a little later in the week. Obviously, Jeff knows Jeff started working the organization under Bud Grant, so he knows everything about the Vikings. We also have Russo on hockey, Lavelle, Roy Smalley, and myself on baseball. The John Krawczynski show, obviously, is fantastic on the Timberwolves. We have Don Mitchell's show, Mark Rosen's show, Randy Shaver on high school football, Randy Shaver and Kevin Gorg on fantasy football, the Fantasy Football Huddle, which is also a blast. Outdoor content, other shows I can't even remember right now. Check out TalkNorth.com. We do appreciate it. Now let's talk about the Packers. So going to Lambeau under these circumstances would seem to be really daunting. I will say this: I don't think the Packers are that good either.
No, I agree. If they can go to Detroit and win, they can go to Green Bay and win. Yeah. Like, that's the bottom line. You look at the way the Packers have been playing. Jordan Love, on one drive will look like Patrick Mahomes. On the next drive, it will look like JJ McCarthy. Like, it's, when I look at the matchup and when I look at things, would I pick the Vikings to win? Probably not. But this is not, at the start of the season, you looked at it and said, oh man, that game at Green Bay, chalk it up as a loss for sure. Like, they just traded for Parsons. They're super talented. Like, this is going to be one of those tough ones. But the way that they're playing right now is very beatable. If you go in with the right execution, the right game plan, and you play disciplined football. So like, I can't wait to watch it. I think it will be super, super interesting. I think JJ McCarthy needs to make some plays and start putting some things together, and he's capable of it. But, this Packers team is unimpressive is what I would say. And so, I think it's, anything is possible going into this one.
Let's go ahead and make picks. I know they're silly, but it's usually a good thing. And I'll go first. I wouldn't be surprised if McCarthy plays well and the Vikings win. I wouldn't be surprised if McCarthy leads another fourth quarter comeback. I'm just not going to bet on it. I just think that Micah Parsons playing at home, Vikings have played well in Green Bay in recent years. So there's no, there's no fear factor. There's no awe factor here. I just think the Packers are a little bit better than the Vikings right now. They're playing at home. I'll pick them to win like 24-20.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I I think this is a game where you need the defense to turn the ball, to get a turnover and get some momentum on your side. And I just don't trust them to be able to do that. And then, and support McCarthy and what he's going to need, in this game. And so, yeah, I mean, 26-23, something like that, 26-20, somewhere within a touchdown, I think is what I would feel. But there's just not enough things in the Vikings' favor right now that I could say, yeah, you know, I'm trying to remember the playoff game. Was it Antoine Winfield who had the pick and went back for a touchdown? Like things like that have to happen. So far, the Vikings seem incapable of generating. So if it happens, great, and we'll see it. But I'm not betting on it right now.
Good stuff, John. Thank you. Please, everybody, check out the John Krawczynski Show. The Timberwolves are fun and interesting, and John does a great job covering them here and at The Athletic. We do appreciate everybody who watches. We appreciate everybody who listens, everybody who's helped Talk North get to this point, including our sponsors. Thank you all. We'll talk to you next week.